Welcome to Spotlight TV. I'm your host, Emily Zubi, and we're so happy to be in partnership with community newspapers. They're producing our show, and they do such an amazing job. I want to shout out to them and thank them for working with us and being such an amazing partner. So today we have our very first CEO Circle member Spotlight, and it's an individual that I have worked with for over 35 years. I don't want to age us now, but we have been in many industries together, including TV production, and I am just a real fan of Liz Mershon. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Liz is with the Profit Recipe, and I am fascinated with this, so she's going to tell us all about it.
Well, as the name states, the Profit Recipe, we're really, I'm an EOS implementer, which is a system called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So essentially what I do is work with leaders and founders to just get what they want out of their business, whether it's time, scaling, profits, or all three. So, and we use a very specific process called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And I happen to be a certified implementer. So this is all I do.
It sounds wonderful. So for example, what can a leader expect after working with you? Say, how long does it take to see results?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, well, first of all, it's not a one size fits all, right? But we use a very specific process. There are three key things that we focus on, and that's vision, getting crystallizing where you want to go and how you're going to get there, and getting 100% clear, not just yourself as the leader, the founder, but your team. Because most often not, visionaries, what we call them, the founders, have it all in their head, but it's getting it all out there, right? And then making sure that there's alignment so that everyone is clear on where you're going and how you're going to get there. Then there's traction. This is really important. It's about instilling discipline and accountability so that everyone is executing on that vision. And last but not least is health, right? The health of the team. Because if you don't have a healthy team that's open and honest and people are actually like working together, then there's a problem. So we want to have clarity around the vision, we want to have execution, and we want to have healthy teams that work cohesively, I should say. Cohesively, not coherently, but cohesively to really realize that vision.
That's wonderful. Let me think. Visionary. Do we know anyone like that?
I've been calling you that. Like, oh my gosh, you're such a visionary. But that's what, every company needs that. You need that because that's the person that's driving the ideas, the innovation, the growth, has those big relationships. You need that. The problem is a lot of times those individuals are in the day-to-day trying to master everything, or not even master, but just wearing too many hats. And ideally, where the greatest value is in that sort of innovation and the big relationship. So we want to decentralize that founder, that entrepreneur, so that they can really stay at the highest frequency of their value. And what happens often not is that they're frustrated because they're wearing too many hats. There's a lack of, of work-life balance. They work too many hours. There's a lack of accountability in the organization, which then there's a lack of execution. There's just a lot of frustrations that come along. You want to grow, but you don't have a path to get there. You don't know how you're going to scale and take your business to the next level. So that's where I come in this with the system, is we make that really, really clear by using a very specific process that's being used by over 200,000 companies worldwide and growing every day. It's very effective and it's simple. The reason that I love it is because it's simple. It's a very simple, digestible process with very simple tools that we teach to make sure that they're gaining traction. And speaking of traction, this all stemmed from a book. I want to show the book because this is available to everyone. It's called Traction by Gino Wickman, who is the creator of EOS. And when I read this book, it resonated so much because I'd lived, as we talked about, we've been in business for over 3 decades. I started my first business in South Beach in my early 20s. And a lot of pain that you go through as an entrepreneur, trying to grow a business and scale, just build or grow and just maintain a business. And when I read this, it was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I come across this before? So, I recommend this to anyone, whether you're going to use the process or not, because you learn so much, and it'll resonate. It definitely resonates with all leaders and entrepreneurs. I've yet to meet someone that hasn't said, "Oh my gosh, what an eye opener!" Simple, but
So
very,
you must
very,
read Liz Traction. So I have to put that on my.
Traction by Gino Wickman. That's your book, Emily.
Oh,
and
thank you.
You're going to read it.
Did you write a dedication on there? Like, I mean,
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Christmas comes early.
So the traction is all based on the discovery that the root of all issues in a company stems from 6 components of the business. And so what we want to do is we want to strengthen those components. And those components are vision, right? And we go through a series of 8 questions to define, again, who you are, what you do, where you're going, who your market is. It's 8 specific questions that crystallize the path. Then there's the people component. Well, we know we can't build a great company without great people, but how do you define great people, right? So everyone looks at rock stars, A players differently, but it's about culture and it's about the right seat. We call it right people, right seats, because you have to have the right structure. You build a house, a developer or builder builds a 4-bedroom house. He has no idea who is going to live in that house, but it's got to have bedrooms, it's got to have closets, it's got to have kitchen, right? It's your basics, and that's your structure of the company. Then it's the people, right? First you figure out what is the structure, then you bring in the people. So that's right people, right seats. And I'm not going to get too in the weeds because there's a lot of information.
No, these are the 6.
So so there's the vision, the people, and then the data. Well, how many times, personally, I was guilty of, what does your gut think? What do you think? You run your business based on instinct, based on gut, but not facts. And there's that saying, you can't improve what you can't measure. And so we really drill down to those basic numbers that really give you a pulse on your business. So that's your data. So when you start strengthening your data, your vision, and your people, what happens is that you create a very lucid, transparent organization where the issues come up. And great companies are great problem solvers. So we want to get you really good at solving them, but making them go away forever, right? Not just put a Band-Aid, which is what we do. We go into meetings and we talk, we walk out. There's no real clear action plan, or somebody thinks they're going to do something, but then it falls through, right? And people get really frustrated because it's like this hamster wheel. And it's a very frustrating thing to go into meeting after meeting and not seeing the needle move. So we teach a very specific process to get really good at solving. So that's the issues component. So now we've got vision, right? People, data, issues, and then you have process. Well, we know that in order to scale, you have to have that big business in the box, right? I'm a franchise owner. That's what you want. I tell my clients, pretend you're going to build a franchise. Let's create the business in the box. Let's document those core processes so that you have consistency, you have scalability, you can manage the business better, and you profit more. Because when you run efficiently, you can do more with less. You work smarter, not harder, is what I always say. And so we work on that, and we capture 20% of the 80%. Because how many times you go and people have these like 20, 40-page SOPs that who reads? Nobody reads them, right?
Uh-huh.
So less is more. So we drill it down to the 20%. And then last but not least, we have traction. And that is where the execution happens. And we have that meeting pulse, which is a weekly meeting that we teach with a very specific agenda. And we really stress that, because that's where that weekly traction and accountability, that discipline that we talk about. And then that 90-day world, we create a 90-day world. Every 90 days, I would say, pretend you've been given a map and you're in the jungle, and you've been giving a machete, and you say, okay, forge a path forward, right? And you start, cutting down the trees. But if you don't come up above the trees every so often and look behind you and see, did I stay on course, and then reset to look forward, right, you're going to derail, which is what happens a lot. We start with these ideas, but we don't stay on course. We don't stay laser focused. So it's critical. And in EOS, like if you look at we use a pie where vision's on top and traction's on the bottom. And we say it's no coincidence, right? Because vision without execution is hallucination. You've got to execute on that vision. Otherwise, it just stays an idea. So that's the 6 components. And so the idea is to strengthen those components to 80% or above. And believe it or not, most companies, even successful despite themselves, are running on 20%. And whether they've been around 15 years or 20 years or 4 years, it doesn't matter. Like the majority of, especially entrepreneurial, which is what I specialize in, entrepreneur-led companies, they're just cranking. They're going. And sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, right? I'm using all these cliches, but it's true.
Right.
And so in this process, it really makes you look at your business so differently, and really it makes you feel very like, oh my gosh, I know what I need to do, and I've got the tools to do it, because all those components come with very specific tools. And my job is to teach Amanda Fish. I'm not a consultant. I'm not there to fix your problems. I'm there to facilitate the conversation, use my voice of experience to navigate and help you. I'm there to coach you, right? As a coach in any sport, you don't play the game, but you can see and you can help, right?
Right.
Like direct, and then of course a teacher, because I teach them very specific tools. And my goal is to not create dependency. I don't want them to depend on me. I've been a consultant. There's a big difference. And so if I'm doing my job, not only will they be more successful in terms of running their business, they'll feel a sense of relief. My goal is to make you more profitable, right? and it just happens. It happens because you just start working differently. You start working harder. I mean, smarter, not harder. And for the person that typically hires me, it's the founder, right? It's the visionary that is looking for help, is seeking help because they're struggling with any of these issues. And so for me, my job is to help them get decentralized, not make them feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulder, that if they're not there, like the sky will fall to a certain extent.
Right.
It never does. But at the same time, like whether it's that having more time to work on the high level things, or just, enjoying their business more because they're just frustrated, or the fact that maybe they want to be able to not be in the business anymore. They just want to work on the business, go in a couple of times a week, have a team work for them. Like I said, have the business work for them regardless.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. If you're just joining us, we're with Liz Mershon, and she's with the Profit Recipe. She's been telling us about the process, and I know Liz many years, and one thing that we're really excited about is the CEO Circle that we just started. So many of you know about our Founder Circle, which we started in 2017, and has some of the most amazing women and philanthropists in the community. They help us nominate and select our rock stars. So recently, as of last month, we started a CEO Circle that's predominantly, it's 20 members. It's by invitation only. And these are powerhouse women that run multi-million-dollar companies, and we make sure that they're only in certain categories. So we're really excited to have Liz. Liz is one of the most brilliant businesswomen I've ever met. She has been a COO for 2 different companies and taken them public. She doesn't toot her own horn, but I'm going to. She's that kind of woman that you want by your side and working with you, and not only cheers you on, but now brings you to that profit point and releases that pain point, which reminds me, I've seen you go through the years. And I think that in any transition that a woman in business makes, there is a pain point that makes you move into another industry. I mean, I've been in 7 industries. I know that I get to one point and I'm like, I've had it, and I move on to another. What would you say that is for you?
Yeah. So the last company grew from like nothing, inception, to taking it national. I realized when we got to a certain point that what I love, what really like just gets my juices flowing, is that building, right? That the challenges, like I love that. I love building. I love working with teams, developing teams. And so when it stopped being that, when it just became, too big and too it changed. Like it doesn't, it's part of the journey, right? So I realized that that's not for me. And so I stepped away from that and I had to rethink, like, where am I going with this, right? And so I always loved, again, the entrepreneurial journey. I mean, like I said, I started my first business in my early 20s and I've been started, independent film studios. And I realized, like, what I love is that. And I love working with helping people. I mean, I was in behavioral health where I help people, but this was like taking that skill set of helping people with the skill set of business, which I already had, and just merging that. And this, like I said, this process came into my life and it was a game changer. And I said, this is what I want to do. So really the pain point was just the realization that I was really unhappy and knowing that I had to make a change. And then coming to the realization that I was unhappy because I wasn't doing what I love, which is, again, that it's that helping, but help journey that is, a lot of people fear, to be honest with you, or think it's the hardest, but
Uh-huh.
it is hard, but it can also be exciting. It's super exciting.
That's wonderful. And I always tell when I do some coaching, I always say, it's about purpose, passion, and a plan. And
100%.
and knowing, what that is and really obsessing over it every single
Yeah.
day and making sure that you stay on track.
Yeah.
So when we talk about leaders, we are in the middle. We actually just launched our book of leaders. It's going to be a coffee table book. It's going to be released the same date as 50 Shades of Pink, Rockstar Awards Luncheon.
That's exciting.
And we have some really, amazing leaders, industry leaders. When you think of leaders that you work with, and be it, ones that you're planning to or ones that you already have, because you're very busy. I mean, every time we're lucky. Thank you for making time to be on the show because I know how busy you are. But, what would you say are those types of leaders? Like you talked about the visionary, right? But what would you say are other styles and
Yeah, no, I mean, look,
your take on leadership?
Yeah, leadership is about, opening the door, right? Helping empower others and developing others to lead. It's not just about, being in a position of power, but really the most amazing leaders I've worked with are the ones that are the most humble and vulnerable and are willing to, to recognize when they're not the smartest in the room and surround themselves with other people that bring that value that, is only going to benefit them and everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. So I work with all kinds of leaders, but true, a lot of people wear the titles of leaders, but to be a true leader takes a vulnerability. I love Brene Brown because there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot that she speaks on vulnerability, and that's something that we in the EOS system we say to be able to have this really work, you have to not only be willing to be open and honest, be vulnerable with yourself and others, and that's something that's part of the process is vulnerability. I do team health and we get very real and we create these bonds because we are human and those connections are what opens the path. And then when you open the path and people can really build trust, true trust, the essence of not like, do I know you can get the job done, but trust you as a human being, then you can move mountains, right, as a team because you have this power, you have the knowledge, right? But then now you have this, it takes you to another level because now you're working really in sync. And that to me, a leader allows for that to happen and is able to have those qualities and opens the door for others to step in and grow and lead into their own power.
Do you generally find a difference when you're working with female leaders versus male leaders? And, I'm not getting into stereotypes, but there are things that I've observed and I'm just curious what you're finding on your front end as you do the profit recipe.
I have a mixed bag, right? Because you would think that, and I do, in fact, I was on the phone with a potential client overseas yesterday. And he said to me, like, I have no problem. Without me provoking it, right? He said, I have no problem being vulnerable. And I hadn't even talked to him about that. He goes, and he said all the things that I just mentioned. And he's, he's from a Latin American country, and we always think of like that mentality, even more culturally. So you just don't know, right? I don't know. And then I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs. Actually, I have got quite a number of women that I work with. I love working with female leaders, but just because you're a female leader doesn't mean that you're able to be. I'm a perfect example. It took me a while to learn to be vulnerable. Because of our television background, right, I had to develop thick skin, right? We work in a man's world. And so, we were young and, we weren't taken very seriously. And so we had to develop this thick skin, and we weren't really we didn't want to show that kind of vulnerability. So I had to really work on allowing those walls to sort of shed and know that that does not mean weakness at all. So I think it's just where you are in the journey of self-discovery and like being comfortable in your own, sort of worth and power, that you don't have to feel like you have to put anything on, any kind of, guards, what do we call shields. Right. So whether you're a man or a woman, what I find is that self-development that really is where the shift happens. And when you're able to really look at yourself in a vulnerable way and say, yeah, I'm not perfect, and it's okay for me to let my team know. And look, I have sessions where people cry, but it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? And it just shows we're human. And sometimes things get, to that point messy, but it's a good kind of messy. Like we want that. We want to be able to go there.
Yeah, I always say I turned my mess into a message.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what happens. And you learn about people, and you learn about, understand why they are who they are. And it just makes you more, it creates this awareness that creates more empathy for you to maybe connect with that person a different way. Maybe now you understand why sometimes they behave the way they behave. And so that, that now understanding allows you to have a different kind of relationship. And that's what we want.
Yeah. We just developed Rockstar Rules of Engagement. And everyone said to me, this is not like you to, put these kinds of things on. And I said, well, I just saw the need to have to really put some of those guidelines out there in terms of who we are as a culture. We're going to celebrate, 50 Shades of Pink is turning 10 years and 15 years on the other front. So I think as you go along in business, becomes sometimes a time to have to either revisit or restructure or make some things pretty clear.
Yeah. Well, you said culture, and that's something we really emphasize, especially in today's world, is really, those are your guiding principles. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. And we work on that discovery of who are you, right? What is the culture that you have that you want to protect? Because that's critical. And, those guiding principles are, that's how you get the right people, right? The right seats, you can figure out right seats, but right people, that's a hard thing. And, in today's world, it's harder than ever. I mean, I don't know a client in whatever industry that doesn't tell me the same thing. It's so hard with the staffing. So more than ever, we have to really build culture. We have to protect culture. And so I love that you're doing that. And the values, really stating those values, and we bring them in and we teach people. Don't put them on walls, really bring them to life, give them breath, make sure they're in your organization, hire, reward, retain and repel based on those values.
That's great. So you've been with Miami Woman of Rock a while, and been in the founder circle. Now you're, one of the 20 in the CEO circle.
And thank you, by the way.
What has your experience been in terms of Miami Woman of Rock?
Well, first of all, I being through the whole journey with you, it's amazing to me to see not only what you've built, but the quality of people that you've surrounded yourself with. I mean, every woman I've met in your organization is just, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like such a slacker. I'm like, I need to double down. I mean, these women are.
That when they meet you, they're like, oh, how many companies did she take?
No. I mean, they're just, honestly, just wonderful human beings doing great things in the community, just smart, giving people, and those are the people you want to be around, right? You want to be around people that, are there to help others, not just themselves, and believe in what you believe. So I love what you've built, and again, you without even having it like said, you have created a culture, right? You've created a culture because everyone that I've met is in alignment with, with your message, with your values, and that's a beautiful thing. It really is a beautiful thing. So
It means a lot coming from you.
no, but no, it's just, and it's not easy. It's not easy to get to where where you are. And now with the CEO circle, how exciting is that? A new phase, a new chapter.
It is a new phase.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere near ready to retire. So it
retire.
Why did you start the CEO circle? I said, because I mean, there's a selfish purpose in all of this, because there's a part of me that, yes, I have my agency, the Zubi Group. I own, several businesses, and I'm still not done. And, I have another chapter in me. So, I'm not retiring anytime soon.
No way. No way. Well, it's funny because after I exited the second company, somebody said to me, well, are you going to stop working? I'm like, no. Cool. I love what I do. I don't consider this work like you don't consider this work. I mean, do we have to do things? But I get to meet with people every, like not every single day, but, I help people, and it fills my, it's selfish. It fills my glass, and I know that I'm helping them and they're helping me because I grow with all these clients. They're teaching me something. So like, why stop that? Like, I don't care, how old you are. Like, if you've got something you could still give to the world, like, why not?
That's wonderful. And you have so many gifts. So this is a point in the show, Spotlight TV, where we shine the spotlight on you, and you get to give us your 60-second commercial. Now, you come from the advertising and production business. So, this is your time to tell us,
Well, I mean, all I have to say, number one, I recommend this book, Traction, to anyone. I mean, anyone who's in business, because they'll learn. And if anybody wants to learn more, I'm happy to meet. I do like a complimentary session where I go through all this, and I say I do the cliff notes of the book. But regardless, people walk away with a lot of information that they can apply without me. So you find me at The Profit Recipe, profitrecipe.com, and my email is liz@theprofitrecipe.com. And so I'm happy to help. If anybody even has a question that they want to ask without just even having a whole separate structured meeting, I'm happy to help. I tell people one of the values is help first. And I really live that because it's my nature. And so if there's anything I can do to help anyone that's out there that just has a question, reach out. I'm happy to do that. So that's it. That's my spiel, because I'm not really good at selling myself that way.
Well, you are amazing. And, when I need help, you're one of the women I turn to, because you have a brilliant business mind. And, I love how succinct you are, but also how clear you are, because you're always like, I need bullets. I need to organize. So you're like, okay, there are 3 things you need to do. 1, 2, 3. So for those that are joining us and listening to this, who is your ideal client? Like, I mean, are you talking about multi-million-dollar client? Like, what's that point?
Yeah, the sweet spot. So look, our target market, right? It's and we've worked with big corporations too, like Duracell and Crocs. That's not our sweet spot, but we've worked with them. We have them. We've had them as clients. We have them as clients. Our ideal client is between 10 to 250 employees, generating a minimum of $1 million a year. And is really is more afraid of status quo than they are of change, because change is inevitable when you go through this process. It's good change, but change is scary for a lot of people. And so we say, if you're not willing to change, like you don't embrace change, then don't even get on this ride with me, because it's going to happen. But, like I said, change is good, right? Change is sometimes scary, but good. So that's our ideal. And I work with the leadership team, because first we work with them, and as they go, so does the rest of the team, because the idea is to have the entire organization running on EOS, but first we start with the leadership.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, that's Liz Mershon with The Profit Recipe. We thank you for joining us every week, Thursday at 10 a.m. Here at Community Newspapers. We do the live stream on YouTube, and our show has picked up in tremendous popularity. We just last week had over 10,000, and it's growing every single day. So we'll see you next Thursday. We have a very special guest, Lorenzo Valcarcel, who is not only a fractional COO, but a founder of many companies. So see you on Spotlight TV next week, 10 a.m. Thanks for joining us.